All right, so we're diving into something I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about lately, AI in the language world. Specifically, we're going deep on this Slater Pro Guide, Translation AI report, fresh off the press from 2023.
It's like a cheat sheet for how things are changing right now thanks to large language models, or LLMs for those in the know.
Exactly, LLMs. No more just whispers about these things. We're getting into the nitty-gritty.
And what's got people talking is we're way past those early days where AI was a novelty. This report digs into how LLMs are transforming the landscape for anyone working with language. We're talking practical stuff, not sci-fi scenarios.
Right, it's not just machine translation getting a fresh coat of paint, though it is, but it's tackling those tasks that we all wish we could hand off to, well, someone or something else, right? Like those, ugh, if only this could be automated kind of things.
And guess what? It can. This report breaks down 10 ways LLMs are already doing just that.
10. Okay, we've got to get into those. But first, just for those tuning in who might be new to all this, let's do a quick level set. When we say LLM, what are we actually talking about?
So imagine this massive brain, right? But instead of neurons, it's packed with data. Tons and tons of text data, code, books, articles, you name it. LLMs are trained on this data to understand language like at a crazy deep level.
Okay, so they basically devoured the entire internet, is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, and because they've been fed so much language data, they can do some pretty mind-blowing things, like generating text that's almost indistinguishable from human-written content, translating between languages with impressive accuracy, and even summarizing complex information in a way that even I can understand.
And that's saying something. Okay, so LLMs are these super smart language whizzes, but how does this actually impact the language industry?
Well, remember those 10 ways we mentioned earlier? They cover a lot of ground. We're talking machine translation, obviously, but also things like streamlining your linguistic assets.
So, glossaries and translation memories working in perfect harmony.
Exactly. That's use case number 4. Imagine having an LLM that could reconcile conflicting terms across all your resources and then automatically suggest the most appropriate term based on the context.
Okay, that's huge. We're talking less time spent on tedious cross-referencing, more time for the nuanced work that only a human can do.
Precisely. But let's rewind for a second and tackle the elephant in the room, shall we? Machine translation.
It's the application everyone's buzzing about, and for good reason.
For good reason. The report really digs into the scale of data LLMs are trained on. We're talking massive data sets that allow these models to understand and translate larger chunks of text. The report calls these context windows.
Context windows, so they're not just looking at individual words or sentences in isolation.
Exactly. LLMs can consider the entire surrounding text, which leads to more accurate and consistent translations, especially in areas where traditional MT has struggled, like highly technical content.
So we're seeing a real shift in quality, not just speed.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the data, it's about how we interact with these LLMs. One of the most significant developments is the ability to prompt them.
Prompting, like giving them specific instructions.
Exactly. Instead of throwing text at the LLM and hoping for the best, we can actually tell it who the target audience is, what kind of tone we're going for, even hand it a full style guide.
That level of control is a game changer.
It is. The report gives a great example. You can actually prompt an LLM to act as a professional English to Greek translator specializing in healthcare. You're basically shaping its expertise on the fly.
It's like having a superpowered translation assistant that can not only translate, but adapt its style to your exact needs.
Okay, I have to ask, how tech savvy do I need to be to use these prompts effectively? Am I going to need to learn how to code?
That's the beauty of it. You don't. LOMs are designed to understand natural language. You can communicate with them in a way that feels intuitive. That's a relief. For a second there, I thought I'd need a degree in computer science to keep up. But let's talk practicality for a moment. The report does mention that these LLMs, especially the really powerful ones like GPT-4, can get pricey.
That's true. There's definitely a balancing act between power, flexibility, and cost. The report quotes Roland Hofkins, the Chief Product and Technology Officer at LanguageWire, and he emphasizes that the real magic of LLMs lies with customization and few-shot prompting. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're providing enough guidance to get amazing results without breaking the bank.
Finding the right tool for the job, a concept as old as time, it seems, even in the age of AI.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got LLMs boosting MT quality, we've got prompting giving us more control. What other goodies are in store for us language folks?
Well, remember that idea of LLMs reconciling linguistic assets we touched on earlier? Let's unpack that a bit more.
Yes, because that's something I imagine would be incredibly useful for anyone working with translation memories and glossaries, which, let's be honest, is pretty much everyone in this field.
Absolutely. And what's really exciting is that this isn't just a pipe dream. The report highlights tools that are already implementing this kind of technology.
Right, so this is actually happening right now.
It is. Tools like BureauWorks' BWX generative language engine and Memicu's upcoming adaptive generative translation feature are leading the charge, making glossary applications smarter and more efficient.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. What other hidden talents are these LLMs packing?
Well, let's shift from consistency to quality, specifically semantic quality assurance.
You mean beyond just catching typos and grammar errors?
Exactly. The report suggests that LLMs, with their deeper understanding of language, can actually help us catch those sneaky mistranslations that might slip past even a seasoned human reviewer. Those errors in meaning or tone that can have disastrous consequences.
You mean like when you think you're saying one thing, but it turns out you're actually saying something totally different
Hmm.
and potentially offensive in another language?
Exactly. Imagine having a second pair of superpowered eyes scanning your work for those subtle but potentially critical mistakes.
That's incredible. How does that even work? Does the LLM have some kind of built-in lie detector test for translations?
Not quite a lie detector test, but LLMs are trained to understand not just the words themselves, but the meaning behind them, the nuances of language. They can analyze the source and target texts and flag any inconsistencies in meaning or tone that might indicate a problem.
So it's like having a digital guardian angel for your translations. Speaking of which, the report mentioned something called BWX translation smells from BureauWorks. What's that all about?
Ah, yes. This is a great example of what we're talking about. BWX Translation Smells is an LLM-powered tool that can detect potential semantic issues in real time. It doesn't just flag the issue, though. It actually offers alternative translations to the linguist.
Now that's getting pretty close to a fully automated translation workflow, isn't it? Are we all going to be out of a job soon?
It's a question a lot of people are asking, and the report addresses it directly. While it's clear that LLMs are going to significantly change how we work, the report emphasizes that, at least for the foreseeable future, humans are still a vital part of the process.
Okay, that's a relief. I was starting to sweat a little there.
Your job is safe, for now. But in all seriousness, the report stresses that LLMs should be viewed as powerful tools to augment human capabilities, not replace them.
So more like a super-powered sidekick than a replacement superhero. I can get on board with that.
Exactly. Think of it as LLMs taking care of the heavy lifting, automating the tedious and repetitive tasks, and freeing us up to focus on the creative, strategic, and culturally nuanced aspects of language, the things that LLMs, at least for now, can't quite grasp.
So instead of making us obsolete, LLMs will actually make language professionals more valuable by freeing us from the tedious tasks. Now that's an interesting twist. But hold on, before we get too comfortable with this human-machine partnership, let's talk about how this impacts a very specific part of a translator's workflow,
Yeah.
fuzzy matching.
Ugh, fuzzy matching. That love-hate relationship every translator has with their CAT tool, am I right?
You said it. We love those 100% matches, but let's be honest. Those mid-range fuzzy matches, sometimes they're more trouble than they're worth.
You mean those 70% matches that seem promising, but then you end up rewriting the whole thing anyway?
Exactly. Tell me LLMs have a solution for that too.
They just might. The report talks about how LLMs can actually make those mid-range fuzzy matches usable. Instead of just spitting out a percentage, the LLM actually digs deeper. It compares the new source segment with the old one from the fuzzy match, and then makes intelligent adjustments to bring that old translation into the present, so to speak.
Okay, now that's impressive. So instead of me staring at a 70% match, trying to decide if it's worth the effort, the LLM swoops in and says, hold on, I got this, and gives me a match that's actually usable.
You got it. And some developers are already putting this into practice. The report actually gives the example of XTM Cloud. They've integrated what they call AI-enhanced TM that uses LLMs to transform those so-so fuzzy matches into high fuzzy or even 100% matches.
Wow, so higher quality matches, less manual editing, music to my ears. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about another aspect of language that's near and dear to my heart. Rephrasing. Finding that perfect turn of phrase, that just right synonym. Sometimes it feels like I spend half my life with the thesaurus open.
It's a struggle. But what if I told you that LLMs could become your new best friend when it comes to finding the perfect words?
Wait, you telling me LLMs can replace my worn-out thesaurus? I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Imagine this. You're wrestling with a particularly tricky sentence, trying to find the most impactful way to phrase it. You feed it to the LLM and boom, it gives you back a menu of options. Different nuances, different emphasis, all while preserving the original meaning.
So instead of staring blankly at my screen, willing the perfect words to magically appear, I could have an LLM offer creative suggestions. That would be amazing for those moments when you're stuck between good and great.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just creative alternatives. LLMs can also help you shorten or lengthen text while staying true to the original meaning. Think about all those times you've had to cram a translation into a strict character limit, or conversely, make it flow within a specific word count.
Oh, don't get me started on character limits. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole sometimes. So are there any tools out there already doing this magical text stretching and shrinking?
Absolutely. The report mentions platforms like Localize AI and TransFX that have integrated these LLM-powered rephrasing features, making life a whole lot easier for language professionals.
Okay, you've sold me on LLM-assisted rephrasing, but we haven't even touched on SEO yet, that ever-present need to make our content Google-friendly.
Yes, search engine optimization. It's an essential part of content creation these days. And thankfully, LLMs have something to offer here as well.
So we're talking keywords, meta descriptions, all that good stuff.
You got it. The report explains how LLMs can analyze your target text and suggest changes to make it more appealing to search engines. They can help you find those high-impact keywords, optimize your meta descriptions, and ultimately boost the visibility of your content.
And I'm guessing this isn't some distant future scenario. Are there platforms out there already leveraging LLMs for SEO?
You know it. Those same platforms we mentioned earlier, Localize AI and TransFX, they're already incorporating SEO-enhancing features powered by LLMs. They're like the Swiss Army knives of language tools, constantly evolving to meet our needs.
This is all incredibly impressive.
Huh?
But I have to ask, with all this talk about LLMs and their seemingly magical abilities, what about the human touch? Can they really replicate the creativity and nuance of a skilled translator, especially when it comes to things like marketing and transcreation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And thankfully, the report doesn't shy away from it.
So, what's the verdict? Are we all about to be replaced by AI poets and copywriters?
Not quite. For now, when it comes to those truly creative tasks, LLMs are still finding their feet. They can generate options and offer suggestions, but they lack that certain, I don't know, je ne sais quoi, that spark of human ingenuity that makes language truly captivating.
So, no AI-generated Shakespeare anytime soon.
Probably not. However, the report does highlight a fascinating use case for LLMs in creative translation, generating multiple target versions for transcreation projects.
Wait, so instead of just giving me one translation, an LLM could give me like a whole buffet of options to choose from.
Exactly. This allows the translator to compare and contrast different interpretations, pull inspiration from the LLM's suggestions, and then craft the most impactful and culturally appropriate translation, a true fusion of human and artificial intelligence.
Okay, that's actually really cool. It's like having a brainstorming partner who just happens to be powered by algorithms.
That's a great way to put it. And it reinforces this idea of LLMs not as replacements, but as collaborative partners, amplifying our existing skills and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the language world.
Collaboration, not competition. I like the sound of that. But with all this talk of LLMs changing how we work, it begs the question, what does the future hold for the language industry? What happens when these tools become even more powerful and integrated into our workflows?
It's a future full of possibilities, and the report offers some insightful perspectives on where things might be headed.
All right, then. Let's wrap up this deep dive by gazing into our crystal ball. What does the future hold for language professionals in an LLM-powered world? So we're talking robot overlords taking over the translation world. Should I start sending my resume to robot staffing agencies?
Well, I think you're safe for now. The report actually, it paints a picture of a future where AI is less about replacement and more about integration, like really seamless integration.
Okay, so less robots stealing my job and more robots becoming my superpowered assistants.
Exactly. The report, it actually quotes Roland Hopkins again, and he says, for every domain, you'll have assistants, AI, content generation tools, which are built into the environment where you're generating your content. So basically, these tools become so ingrained in our work, they're less like separate things and more like extensions of what we can already do.
So instead of replacing us, LLMs are actually going to make language professionals even more valuable, taking on those tedious tasks, so we can focus on the things humans do best.
Precisely. Just imagine you can offload that heavy lifting to LLMs. First drafts, terminology management, even some aspects of quality control. It frees you up to really focus on the nuances, the creative stuff, the strategy, those cultural elements of language, all the things that, well, at least for now, LLMs can't quite grasp.
So LLMs will push us, language professionals, further up the value chain. We can take on these more complex tasks, higher level stuff. That really plays to our strengths.
Exactly. And the report, it really emphasizes that the people who embrace these technologies, learn to work alongside them, they're the ones who are going to thrive in this new landscape.
It's not about being afraid of the robots. It's about, becoming the robot whisperer.
I like that. Adaptability, a willingness to learn, those have always been important in the language industry. But in this age of AI, those skills, they're non-negotiable.
So it sounds like the future of the language industry isn't about humans versus machines. It's about humans and machines working together.
Absolutely. And this report, it makes one thing crystal clear. This partnership, it has the potential to be incredibly powerful, leading to, higher quality translations, faster turnaround times, and just a more efficient, more fulfilling work experience for everyone.
This report has given us a lot to think about and a lot to be excited about. So what's the one big takeaway you hope listeners walk away with?
I think the key takeaway here is that we're on the brink of a major, major shift in the language industry. LLMs are not just some, passing fad. This is the new reality, and they're already changing how things work. The best thing anyone can do is stay informed, stay curious, and please don't be afraid to experiment with these new technologies.
Wise words. Well, that's it for this deep dive into the world of LLMs and the future of language. We've explored the exciting possibilities, the potential challenges, and how the role of the language professional is evolving in this brave new world.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. The world of AI, it never sits still, right? It's constantly evolving. It's up to all of us to shape where it goes from here.
So to our listeners out there, we encourage you to check out the Slater Pro Guide, Translation AI report for yourselves. Dig into those tools and resources we talked about, and most importantly, start thinking about how you can leverage the power of LLMs to enhance your own work and shape the future of this dynamic, fascinating industry.
And who knows, maybe one day soon, you'll be the one teaching those LLMs a thing or two about the art of language.
Till next time,
Yeah.
happy translating.